What is up, my butter biscuits? Y'all, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Pat McGrath because it seems that people are a little bit bothered at her, a little irritated at her. And I do want to say I made a video, I don't remember when, but like I feel like within this year, where I titled it, Is Pat McGrath in Her Flop Era? I got so much hate for that video. I also lost, I want to say like 93 subscribers when I uploaded that video. I want to say it was something like that. And people were like really throwing shade at me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, y'all, I'm just throwing out a valid opinion over here that I feel like her stuff is so unbelievably repetitive. Well, she is coming out with a new palette. I believe it is called the Sunlit Mothership. And I do want to say it is repetitive yet again. And finally, people are calling her out for that because it's like, how many palettes are you going to come out with that look the same? You know what I mean? She is now blocking people and deleting comments from her posts. I don't know if she manages it herself or a team does. I would imagine a team does run it for her. But still, nonetheless, it is very shady. And I want to say, I've been saying this for so long now. Like, it's been about a year that I've been saying, honestly, y'all know I love Pat McGrath eyeshadows. I literally have said it time and time again. When it comes down to her shimmer formula, I can't find anything comparable to it. I feel like it is absolutely amazing. But at the same time, too, I'm tired of the repetitiveness. I feel like in every single palette that she comes out with, she has like a maroonish burgundy shade with a rosy blushy shade. Literally, I have 3 palettes sitting here right now, and I'm going to show you guys within this video that they all have the same shades inside of them. You know what I'm saying? As far as the mattes go. And then every other palette that I don't have the same shades too. There's probably about 3 palettes that don't have those. So obviously everybody wants something a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? For her to be so repetitive with it blows my mind because I look at her and I think she is such a top-notch artist. I've looked up to her for years, even before I was even on social media. I knew who she was and I knew her artwork. Like, I feel like she is so amazing. So I feel like somebody like her that is so creative when it comes down to makeup, I think it's so trippy that she is continuously coming out with something that is so repetitive. And I feel like finally people are getting it. And I think it's so crazy that I've been talking about it here on my channel for about a year now and people are literally calling me a hater. I'm like, a hater of what? Like, what's the purpose of me hating? Like, honestly, I'm gonna go out here and spend hundreds of dollars on her palette just to hate. Like, y'all, I have never ever talked trash about the formula of these shadows. They are literally one of my favorites. If you guys checked out my favorite makeup videos before, every single time I talk about eyeshadows, literally Pat McGrath is up there. I feel like her shimmers are uncomparable. I feel like they're absolutely amazing, but at the same time too, stop coming out with the same products. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be talking about that within today's video, as well as reading comments from Trend Mood, because I do want to say kudos to Trend Mood for not deleting the comments, because y'all, if you guys head over to the comment section over there, people are going in on Pat McGrath, and so many people are saying that they are leaving comments underneath Pat McGrath's post and saying, hey, these are like the same shades. Like, can you do something a little bit different? Can you do a neutral tone palette? They're deleting the comments and then blocking the people. I'm like, that is so extra. I feel like when you own a brand as big as Pat McGrath, you need to be receptive to constructive criticism, especially if people aren't coming across rude. They're just saying that your stuff is repetitive. You don't need to block them. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, girl, switch it up and do something a little bit different, because so many palettes now have the same shades. Even in her limited edition palettes, it's the same shades. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times can you do the same thing? It's blowing my mind. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about that within today's video. If you guys are interested, go ahead and keep on watching. Make sure you guys click the link down below. Head over to my second channel. That's my travel channel with my brother. New good videos are popping over there, so make sure you guys go show some love. Give this video a big thumbs up if you do like it, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now, I do want to go ahead and start off this video by talking about the palettes that I do have right here. I have 3 palettes. I do have a quad somewhere, but I could not find it because, y'all, I have not filmed in my garage, which is where my studio is, in a hot minute, and I probably won't go back to filming in there for another hot minute because it's been so hot here in LA. But I do want to show you guys the palettes that I do have. This one right here is the what is this one? Mothership, the Divine Rose. When I saw the color story of this palette, y'all, when it first came out, I was like, I need it, absolutely need it. I paid, well, I want to say I paid full, no, I did get it during one of the Sephora sales and I got 20% off, but this was retail for I want to say $125. As you guys can see from right here, y'all, I want to point out these 2 shades right here. As you guys can see, this one right here, the rosy pink, and then as well as this one right here, which is the maroony shade. Maybe it might look brown on camera, but it is not. It's actually like a burgundy maroony colored shade. Now, I also do have this one right here, which is the Celestial Divinity, which is one of her holiday collections. I also do want to point out within this, there is a blushy tone right here, and then there is, oh, wrong side, the maroony shade right here. Very, very similar, as well as the shimmers are pretty similar as well too. Obviously, this one does have a lot more. Now, I do want to say, even before going on into the video and before going into the other comments and stuff like that, I do want to say her quality is amazing. This has nothing to do with her quality. I think that it is great. Obviously, I do feel like it's overpriced, but I'm cheap. Also, in this one right here, this is another holiday palette right here. As you guys can see, it still has the maroony shade as well as the blushy shade. Oh my god, y'all, I'm thrown off right here because I'm looking at the viewfinder. But as you guys can see, it still has those pinky tones to it. Pretty much all of her palettes really do have the pinky tones to it. Now, I do want to go ahead and get into the new palette right here, as well as talk about some other palettes that I do not have. So the one that she is coming out with right now is called the the Sunlit. I got it right. The Sunlit Seduction palette. Now, when I first saw this palette, of course, because those are I absolutely love those tones. You guys know when it comes down to eyeshadow, I love a rosy pinky tone. But obviously, it just becomes so repetitive that you're like, okay, I'm not gonna buy from your brand, because why do you have those same shades in it? As I've mentioned before in all of my anti-hauls, when it comes down to Pat McGrath, I'm like, okay, it really steers me away from buying this type of palette, only because I already have those matte shades. Like, switch it up. Like, the shimmers could be a little bit different, although I will say in this palette they're not really different. Don't get me wrong, they look absolutely gorgeous. Like, looking at these swatches right here, like, honestly, y'all, if you guys do not have this color story, you may absolutely love it. However, if you own the Divine Rose 2, actually, then I would say you don't even need this palette right here, because there's so many similar shades within this. But this is it right here. And I do want to go ahead and read some of the comments before we jump into the other palettes, because so many people are like, what is up with this right here? So this is what somebody says right here. Pat's Insta team is deleting comments and blocking people who say they don't like the color story. Classy, ... not. So bad, honestly. This is becoming a joke. I feel like she's trolling us. That has 707 likes on it. I feel like she put this palette out like 6 times already. That has 626 likes on it. The reason why I mention the likes is because obviously that means people agree with them. And then this is another comment right here that I was like, oh, no. Like, I would be so mad if I was this person. Honestly, I love Pat McGrath. I've spent hundreds, if not over $1,000 on her products. I made a comment under her post about another pink palette, and at this point, I'll take a neutral palette. I get blocked, ? I wasn't being rude or disrespectful. I buy her products. I'm just putting my opinion out there. Not to say I wouldn't buy this as well. That blocking shit really left a bad taste in my mouth. I do have to say, if I left a comment like that underneath a brand that I really look up to and a brand that I really like, and I'm just giving constructive criticism and saying that I would like something a little bit different, that this is seeming repetitive, and I got blocked, I would be like, I don't know if I'm gonna buy from the brand again, because that is just so, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you blocking? I can understand if you're like bullying the brand, if you're like talking trash and cussing and all that, of course, then that makes sense. But if you're literally just leaving your 2 cents there saying, hey, this seems a little bit repetitive, like, can you switch it up a bit? I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, there's literally nothing wrong with that. This person commented right here. I think this is the most liked comment underneath Trend Mood's page. It says, please, let's just change the name to Pink McGrath, which is so true. And it's so crazy. Maybe it seems a little bit hypocritical for me to say, because honestly, when it comes down to eyeshadows, I love my neutrals and I love my like mauve-y, rosy tones. Like, honestly, the shades that she puts in her palette, absolutely love. That's why I bought these 3 palettes. But being that I have these 3 palettes right here, so many other people have these same 3 palettes, and they're like, why would I buy this other palette? You know what I'm saying? You want to look at a new palette and be inspired and be like, oh my gosh, I want to get this. Not again, you know what I mean? Sometimes people just like buying new things, trying new things, and getting new color stories, so that way they're inspired to change up their makeup. And when you have repetitive stuff, it's like, what's the purpose in this? You know what I'm saying? And then somebody else also commented too, these are all starting to look the same. This is what I've been saying for so long now. Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about some of the eyeshadow palettes right here. Say, for example, the Moonlit Seduction. Y'all, this still has that same like burgundy mauve tone to it, as well as that blushy rose shade. Also, too, I do want to say, like, when it comes down to her I would say like champagne bronzy shades, the shimmers, those are very repetitive too. Like, she has them in pretty much every palette, you know? And I just feel like it sucks. Say, for example, like this palette right here, the Sunlit one that's actually just coming out. I looked at that and there's a couple shades in there that I'm like, oh my God, I love it. But why would I buy that palette when I have so many repetitive shades? But then there's a couple shades in there that you want. Do you know what I mean? But then you're like, am I going to spend $125 for this palette just to get a couple shades? You know what I mean? That's where it gets very frustrating as a consumer, is when you fall in love with a couple shades of the palette, but then you have the rest of them. Do you know what I mean? That's when it's like, okay, switch it up. You have so many of these same repetitive shades, you know? Moving on to other palettes right here. Also, too, just take a look at these swatches, by the way, of the Moonlit Seduction. It's like, you see that rosy tone. You see that mauve-y looking one, that like plumish shade. Like, she's obsessed with those shades, y'all. I just don't understand why it's so repetitive. Also, again, right here, these are a little bit different, but still in the same color family. This is the Utopian Dream right here. As you guys can see from the swatches, same thing. Even in her quad, the Rose Luxe Quad, similar shades yet again. And it's so crazy to me because even if you take a look at the bronzy one, this is supposed to be the Floors Luxe Quad, it still has a rosiness to it in that shimmer shade, and then the very last shade on it is kind of like a burgundy as well too. It's still all along the same family. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like she needs to switch it up. Also, I do want to talk about her limited edition collection right here. This is the Bridgerton one. It still has that same rosy shade in the center, and then it has the bottom like rosy plum shade as well too. Everything is just so repetitive. And I do want to say, honestly, at the same time, I'm like wondering, are they doing really, really well with sales on these specific color story palettes? Because it blows my mind, say, for example, that a brand can continuously come out with the same type of thing and still have a market for it. Because I would think if I came out with the same palette 4 different times, just switch it up a little bit, like just switch, maybe make it a little bit lighter, make this one a little bit darker, make this one a little bit more plummy rather than a little bit more burgundy, and then throw it out there, I would think that people wouldn't want to buy it because it's so similar. Do you know what I mean? When it comes down to her shades, say, for example, like this one right here, this shade in a lot of the palettes, it's either a little bit more burgundy or it's a little bit more purpley. Do you know what I mean? So it either has a little bit more red undertone to it or it has a little bit more purple undertone to it in so many shades. And then with this shade, for example, right here, the rosy one, it's either going to be a little bit more like on the warm orangey rose or it's going to be on the like true pinky rose side. Do you know what I mean? But it's still very, very similar nonetheless. Also, these 3 shades right here, I don't know if you guys can see on camera, these top 3 shades right here that have the bronze, gold, champagne, they're all very similar in her other palettes as well too. So I just want to say I absolutely love Pat McGrath. I look up to her as an artist. I think that she is an amazing artist. I think that she is so great. The quality of her palettes is insanely good. I do definitely say that they are overpriced 100%. I've always said it time and time again. I feel like a palette like this can sell for $85, and to me that's still expensive, but $125 plus is just insane. You know what I'm saying? But overall, the quality is there. These shimmers are absolutely amazing. If you guys have not tried out her shimmers before, just go into a Sephora and swatch them. You guys will see what I'm talking about. They are absolutely beautiful, but I do have to say, I think that it is so frustrating that she comes out with something so similar all the time, because looking at this new palette, y'all, I do have to say, looking at the swatches and everything of it, I think that it is absolutely gorgeous. I think that the shades are beautiful. I just wish that she didn't have the same repetitive shades in it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, switch it up a little bit, you know? Because like I mentioned earlier, when you look at a palette and you're like, oh my gosh, I love those 3 shades, but damn, all the other shades I have within these 3 palettes, especially if you guys have these 3 right here specifically, you guys can pretty much make up that palette right there. Do you know what I mean? It's just frustrating that you're like, oh, I want something new, something a little bit different, but she does come out with so many pinky tones. And like I said, I know that that can sound a little bit hypocritical coming from me because that's one of my favorite color stories. But like I said before about neutral tone palettes in all of my anti-hauls, you don't need to come out with it so much. Do you know what I'm saying? Say, for example, if ColourPop came out with 50 like neutral tone palettes or warm tone palettes, it's like, okay, why do you need that many? Do you know what I mean? Anyways, that is it for this video. I do want to say, if Pat McGrath is deleting comments and blocking people, I really feel like that's really bad business right there. And I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's okay, especially when your customers are just giving you feedback. Every single brand out there should be open to criticism because they should want to change for the better. And when you have that many likes on comments on Trend Mood, clearly it means something. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything. Do you guys plan on purchasing this Sunlit palette? I do have to say, if I did not have these 3 palettes, especially the Divine Rose 2, I think I would be getting it if I'm being quite honest with you, only because I do love the color story. But being that I have these 3 right here, there's absolutely no need for it. But maybe these brands do that to like fish for people who don't have any of the other palettes. Do you know what I mean? But then it's like, don't you want like returning customers to buy? I don't know. Make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, Girl Scout.